How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Oh, golly gee, it's a brand new episode of a podcast called Ghoulish. On today's episode, I have Alex Woodroe and Matt Blairstone from Tenebrous Press talking about a new Wield Hill to celebrate the release of the new anthology, Brave New Wield. It's a collection of the best new Wield Hill of 2022. It's an anthology. I think you folks listening to this episode will enjoy it. Tenebrous Press is a new publishing company that I think is doing a lot of cool things. So I was excited to talk to both Matt and Alex about what they're cooking up. This is a fun episode. I think you will have fun with it. I don't know how many times I can say the word fun in one intro. It is the only word I know the definition of. So I try to use it as much as possible so I sound intelligent when I talk. A jet is flying over my house. Is my microphone picking it up? I'm not going to do this intro again. I have things to do. I have plans. I don't. I'm lying. I have no plans. I'm just so tired. And I hate doing intros. Yeah, go rate and review this podcast on the places you do that. Go to ghoulishbooks.com. Buy some books that we have published. Go pre-order my new collection, Abnormal Statistics. Go buy Shelley Lyons' new novel, Like Real, coming out next week through Ghoulish Books. All types of fun things. See, I said fun again. Anyway, I'm going to stop doing this now. Because I'm not having a fun time. That was a lie as well. I'm having a great fun time on the Ghoulish Show. This is my episode with Matt Blairstone and Alex Woodroe. Enjoy. So to begin, I would love to know more about how Tenebrous Press even happened. How did you two meet? How did any of this happen? What can you tell us about this?
Alex, I always feel like I do this one. Do you want to take your perspective on it?
This is my favorite story. I bore everybody to tears with this story. It's hilarious because Max is actually the founder of Tenebrous, and the first time that I ever heard about him was when he put out his first submission call to do Tenebrous's first anthology. And I was at that point literally nobody. I think I had like maybe one publication credit. Do you remember if I even had one?
You had more than well. If you didn't have many, you certainly had a lot in the queue because
I had stuff up.
Your name was everywhere shortly thereafter. So
that's because I'm loud. That had nothing to do with my publication credits. Like, I've been a writer for 3 years. I'm nobody. And yeah, I was just a writer who submitted a story to his open call. And it happened in a really weird moment too, because I'd just taken some really bad hits. It was my first year of submitting work. I'd taken some really bad rejections and ghostings and some like horrific feedback from editors. This was back when I didn't know not to submit to certain places, like, you know, the sort of place that whether you want it or not is going to tell you why they hated your story, right? So I got some pretty horrific feedback and I was in a very bad place. And I was kind of like quitting writing at the time, which is not weird. I've done that at least 3 or 4 times in the past couple of years. It passes. It's normal.
I think
And
that
I actually,
happens. I think that happens to everybody. Like if you look at the lifespan of any writer, they go between writing and just quitting.
I quit, I quit,
Yeah,
I quit. I'm never doing this again.
yeah,
This sucks. Yeah, it's normal. I'm so used to it. Like I totally see that as a normal part of the process, and it's fine. Even as it's happening, I know like, yeah, I'm being dramatic now, but this will pass,
yeah.
obviously. But yeah, I was in a bad
I've
place
never
at that
quit
time.
writing. I've never quit writing. I just write really, really goddamn slow. I've been writing the same damn thing for like about 20 years now, basically. So,
What
I
page are
think
you
that
on?
sort of helps, right?
I'm on
Yeah,
page 3, thank you.
pretty good 3 pages, I bet.
It is
Though.
amazing.
No, you're not. I've read at least a good 20 pages of that thing, and it is very good. That is a
Fair enough.
solid 20 pages. I
Fair
would
enough.
purchase those 20 pages.
Now, what size font are we talking?
Well, it changes, you know. I
Yeah,
also, you know, and sometimes it really inspires me to be more in the Roboto font. That's kind of where I'm at these days. But
yeah, I get it.
anyway, so I want to kind of qualify what she was saying in that I had opened up this call based on, I come from more of a comics background, and a lot of my friends in that industry, when COVID hit, it was kind of a pencils down edict across the board. There was no one was printing, no stores were open, so there was no work being produced. It couldn't be shipped, it couldn't be printed, it couldn't be sold. And so I was just looking for a way to get some comics people and some horror fiction people rallied to do this project. So we put it on Kickstarter. There had also been a bunch of forest fires were really bad that year in the Pacific Northwest, and I had kind of a up close and personal encounter with them more than I had in the past. And so I wanted to focus on eco horror and different voices from around the world and their takes on how they deal with global disasters, you know, from culture to culture to culture to culture. It wound up being mostly very American centric because that's where the majority of the submissions came from. But Alex,
I was your
Alex,
token Romanian.
yes, my token Romanian.
You've
And
got to have one of those in like every project, you know.
if you don't, they're severely underrated.
Right?
But we just struck up a really good above and beyond everyone. Her and I just struck up a really good friendship and talked. And after Green Inferno funded, I knew I wanted to work with her again, and I wanted to exploit her, you know, because she had editorial skills for days that, you know, far previous to our relationship. And so I wanted her to kind of spearhead the next thing we did under the Tenebris banner, and that was Insomnio, which was a modern take on gothic horror from all female and femme identifying voices. And that was even more successful, and we still weren't killing each other. So it just kind of was like, let's just keep doing this. You know, we
I
seem
feel like
to
at some point halfway through Insomnio funding, we just migrated from that being one project I was going to work on to us just being, you know, best friends, ride or die. Now this is our baby and we're going to take care of it forever. I think by the end of Insomnio, we already knew we were going to work together forever, right?
Well, but
Pretty
yeah,
sure.
we'd already changed like the Kickstarter goals from, you know, let's fund this thing to, okay, now we're going to fund this and we're going to fund advances for 3 novellas. And by that point,
Yeah, that's right.
if we hit that point, then now we have to act like a big grown up publisher and everything. And then we started kind of creating our what the ethos that we were actually going for. Like, all right, so now we're a publisher. Now we've got a little bit of seed money to start this. What the fuck does that mean? And what are we going to do that's different than what anyone else is doing? And, you know, we have kind of let the work that we put out and the writers we work with and the audience that has kind of taken to us, we've kind of let them dictate what it is that we do, what that means. And it's generally a little off center, you know.
Yeah,
New
technically
weird.
after Insomnio is when we actually started to establish our genre and to make a decision and a commitment to it, right? Even though I feel like the first two, Green Inferno and the Insomnio, the first two anthologies, I could still make an argument that they are still part of the same genre, but at the time they weren't necessarily, conceived as such. So after Insomnio is when we actually came up with our genre and our thing, and we sort of decided that we're going to go our own way.
Yeah.
That's great. So how would you define this genre? I assume as the new real, right? Is that what you're saying? So how would you define that for someone, say if you were on a podcast called Ghoulish and the host was like, so how would you define this genre? What would you say?
Well, Alex is the one who has kind of coined it herself, so I'm definitely going to lean into what she says, and I'll pipe in when I.
It's fun because I feel like people confuse new weird with what we're doing a lot, and it's not the same. It's not at all the same. We actually went after new weird horror specifically as a like together term to represent one genre, because we definitely love new weird. We love the aesthetic. We love the way that that genre, which was a big deal in the 90s and early 2000s. We love the way that it blended different genres. We loved the way that it tackled social themes. We loved what it was doing. But for us, it had to be about the horror. It has to start from there and then tack on the rest of it on top of that. So you have to start with the foundation of a horror story and then blend it with other genres and then do, all of the social themes that we care so much about, and then make it modern and weird and interesting, then do something you've never shown us before, that we've never seen before. But yeah, the core of it has to be horror for us. And as a genre, as a together term, new weird horror, that didn't exist. We actually just made that up on the fly as we were trying to figure out what we were doing. And we posted this blog post on what is new weird horror. And that is still like, if you search for new weird horror right now, the first result is the Wikipedia page for new weird. And then the second result is just us talking about new weird horror, because that's all there is. It didn't really exist as a proper genre before.
I'm going to challenge you on that because I didn't know that.
Oh, are you
You didn't
Googling
know
right
about
now?
the search history, about the search results. I swear that's what it shows me, at least. I know not everybody has
you.
the same Google.
I'm going with it. Print it.
What if we went to Ask Jeeves? What would it show?
I don't trust that Jeeves guy.
He seems pretty shifty, yeah. Well, I haven't read this blog post. I didn't know about it. Can you kind of give of me and also the audience like the too long didn't read version of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So the way we think of new weird horror is a horror story that blends different genres. So horror with touches of sci-fi or fantasy that is modern in some way, either in the topics that it approaches or in the themes that it's talking about. Like it has some sort of fresh perspective. Not everything about it has to be modern, but it does have to have something that we haven't seen before. And that, that is weird, that pays homage to the old weirds, that does unusual settings or just, strange twists. We love to play with weird formats as much as possible. We are not using new weird horror as a way to stay close to, Lovecraftian horror or anything like that. It's a genre that has already had its time. So the way that we are defining new weird horror is what's happening right now. What's the weirdest thing people are writing right now? What is the most modern and interesting thing that they are writing right now in the horror spectrum? And that's new weird horror. That's all that it has to be, really. There's a lot that goes under that umbrella. And it still changes every day, because if you're going to do something that you want to keep modern and progressive, that does mean that, every year it's going to be a different thing. We can't keep it a static genre that has one definition forever. That wouldn't be right.
What would be some examples of pre-existing books that you would count under this label?
Well, I mean, for me, definitely everything China Melville ever wrote. Like he's somebody that I read a lot. He influenced me a lot when I was a teenager, and I loved him. You know,
Personally, Caitlin Kiernan was kind of someone I used. Caitlin Kiernan and Kath Koja were two big ones that I wanted to, you know, when I was looking for inspirations, you know, to, you know, because you do need to have comps, you know, for the in this industry. You need to have something to give people a sense of comfort as to what we're doing. And we're not trying to, you know, I don't think we veer into experimentalism at the expense of story. And in fact, we make a very intense effort to put story front and center. It can't just be experimentalism for its own sake.
We're not necessarily the right people for experimentalism or for surrealism. It's definitely something that has its place, but that's not us. I personally am not very good at editing that sort of thing, so we don't tend to take that. We also have this big pulpy history, both of us. You know, we love pulpy horror. We love stuff that's plot driven. We love stuff that's dynamic and draws you in. So we also are drawn towards that sort of thing a lot, which I think produces a very good combination between the weirdness and the pulpiness, you know?
Yeah, this is a little unrelated, but I've been having this conversation in my house a lot, and I'll get back to what we were talking about. But when you with orange juice, do you take the pulp or no pulp? What do you prefer?
I'm an all pulp person.
Okay.
All pulp,
I like it.
yeah.
I like
Okay.
it when it gets stuck in your teeth.
Yeah, it has to be almost solid, I think, before I enjoy it. Okay, good.
I
But I
chew
can't
my
explain
juice.
why. I feel like I'm being healthier if I have all the pulp
Yeah.
somehow. I'm not even sure if that's true at all. Like, do not take this as medical advice. I have no idea what I'm saying. But yeah.
I think if you drink orange juice with lots of pulp in it, you will live longer, is what they're deciding. Okay, great. Going back to what you were saying about experimental books. One of the books you released, it almost feels experimental to me. Val's book. How do you say the title? Crom Cruick?
Crom Cruack.
Correct.
To the best of my knowledge, I hope I'm not butchering it, but in my conversations with Val, that was how it was given to me. And yeah, Crom was a unique. So, you know, kind of behind the scenes on that one a little bit, we did open up 2 novellas, and we released 3 last year. One Hand to Hold, One Hand to Carve by M. Shaw, and Lure by Tim McGregor. And then there was this third one, Crom Cruack, that I didn't know what the fuck to do with, but it wouldn't leave my mind.
Yeah.
And so we back and forth this one, and that one I had more of a hand in than the other ones. You know, I kind of shepherded it a bit more because I felt it was almost like a duty to do right by it, but I didn't. You know, it took a lot of work to get that thing in, and we put work into it to kind of make it a more there's some interactive elements to it with the maps and the found documents that are included in it, and that hadn't really been a part of it. Those are things that evolved between conversations between Val and myself and Alex. And I'm really proud with how it came out, and I'm really proud of the reception that it's had, because we thought that one ran the risk of being put out into the world and people just wouldn't get.
For anybody who doesn't know what Crom Cruack is, it is a novella. It does tell a coherent story, but it's also written in verse. And what Matt is talking about, the work that we put into it, we do have a lot of like art elements that go together with the story. We have this really particular cover on it, and we work together with the artist a lot to, you know, even create a nude version of that cover and do a pre-order package, and, you know, just really put every effort into making this book, treating it like it was a big 5 release, despite the fact that it is such a weird little creature, because it's so genuinely strange.
Yeah.
Because it's good to try. Like, we've had one release, the first one, that was basically like a literary horror, and then we've had the second one that was our more pulpy and more, you know, commercial attempt. And then this one that was just, let's see how weird we can go with a great story and still get people to trust us and come along with us and see what we are seeing in it. And it did really well. Matt was the driving force on that one, and he was absolutely right about it. We are so happy with how it did and how people reacted to that book.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's if it does. I haven't read it yet, but I own a copy, and I've read Val's stuff. We feel I'm publishing one of the little books next year through Ghoulish.
I was very
and,
happy to hear that.
Yeah, I'm so pleased.
And it's exciting to see so many people excited about what she's writing, especially a book like Kruek. I'm never
Yeah.
going to say that right.
Close enough.
Because it does seem like it is the most anti-mainstream book possible.
It is, but it has, there's this. At its heart, it's a giallo,
Yeah,
revenant slasher mystery kind of. It's got supernatural elements. It's got a lot of thoughts on modern day Catholicism. So it dives into social issues with, also trying to describe it without using things that are like fire bombs and Molotov cocktails, because it hits like that. It is a very confrontational book. So
it is in a very beautiful way.
Let's yes.
No, go ahead.
Let's transition into this anthology, Brave New World, Volume 1. That's a pretty big implication. Volume 1.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's not that big.
Ballsy.
Now I'm wondering, like with Alan Datlow's anthology, did it begin by calling itself Volume 1? It must have, right?
Oh, I wonder. Or was?
Do you know? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Who owns it? Who owns an original pressing of that?
I don't know. Do you guys know like Alan Datlow's phone number? Let's just get on the. Anyway, let's talk about this anthology. How did this come about? Walk me through the genesis of it.
This one was definitely Alex's baby, and she kind of shepherded this from the outset. And
I was just thinking, didn't we agree that we kind of traded projects? We agreed that you're going to take the lead on Crom Cruac, and I would get to take the lead on this one.
Yes.
And this was definitely like something I wanted to try. It again started off as an experiment. All of our best projects start off as there's no way this is going to work. We have to try it, right? So I definitely inspired by Ellen Datlow's anthologies. I figured since this is a genre that we care about, that we kind of are trying to create ourselves and do something out of, why shouldn't we take the stories out of all of these other publications, all of these other genres? They're not even calling themselves new weird horror, but we know that that's what they are by our standards of being horror forward, modern in theme or tone or voice, weird in setting or, in any other way, or in format. Or so we can take these characteristics, look at what everybody else is publishing, and put out this yearly anthology of, it's not the best of new weird horror per se, because the best implies that we've read everything, and that's impossible. There's no way that's happening. But we love to think of it as a showcase of the range that the genre has, of all the various places where it gets published, of all the cool things people are doing with it. So we have stories that are, really like current and cutting in themes. We have stories in there that are weird in format and interesting and fun. We have sci-fi horrors, fantasy horror, literary horror, all sorts of like weird combinations in there. And I wanted to see whether we could get people interested in this sort of thing, whether we could get people to buy it. We made it volume 1 because I feel like this kind of endeavor, it only makes sense if you are going to make a commitment to do more than one volume, if you're going to make a commitment to do it every year.
Absolutely.
Because just doing it once would have been odd. And also because I thought, okay, if this doesn't necessarily like break even or turn a profit, that's not a problem, because we're doing it not for us, we're doing it for the genre. So if it doesn't, it's okay. Maybe 5 volumes down the line is when it's going to make a profit, and that's totally fine. And we're going to give it, the freedom to do what it wants without any sort of expectations commercially, which I know it sucks to have these conversations, especially in front of an audience, but like that's what publishers have to deal with. And
Yeah.
we might as well talk about that side too. And it turned out that we shouldn't have worried. It did fine. It broke even before it was launched,
That's
basically.
great.
So yeah.
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 That's always good.
Yeah, right. It's still doing fine right now. Like we have no reason not to keep doing this every year for as long as we are operating.
Yeah, and people are going to think what they think of it. And honestly, I don't know, maybe it's just like years of like kicked dog syndrome, but I was expecting more of a slight outcry, and that we kind of, we got a little bit verbal about how we were wanting to make almost an anti-table of contents with it, as in and what I mean by that is that you'll see
I'm so sorry.
you see lots of social media where it's like, check out this fire table of contents. And yes, there are names in this book that you will know, but there are lots of names in this book that you don't know, that we didn't know. And we really wanted to make sure we were democratizing how this plays out, that we're not really interested in name value.
Yeah.
First off, we're in a niche of a niche of a niche. Horror is small in the grand scheme of literature, and we're going for just a portion of that. So
tiny fraction.
We're not trying to sell our things based on the name values that are in the table of contents.
That's great.
I'm very happy with how it's been received so far.
I'm glad to hear that, because now I will go on the record that this is my opinion only. If you guys don't have to chime in at all, but like when you look at Datlow's anthology, it's like Phil, I mean, it's a great thing she's doing, but you do often see it's just the same like 5 to 10 rivals every year, and you always think, well, come on, like surely those new rivals that could be spotlighted. That also sounds
I like
wrong.
spotlighted myself. Yes.
So I think
I'm with Spotlit. I think I'm on Team Spotlit.
Okay, great. That could be spotlit. That sounds hilarious. But there's never any room, it seems, made. I don't know. It's so like to flip through this TOC, which I was doing, and I recognize maybe 2 names, and that's great, because certainly when I like pick up an anthology, I'm hoping to be introduced to writers I don't know about, because the odds of me having read like a new Stephen Graham Jones story when it was originally published in whatever magazine, well, pretty good, because I'm already seeking his fiction out. But now I have a whole new list of people who are new to me, and I'm excited to be introduced to them. And I think that's a really great thing to strive for with an anthology like this.
And some of those names in like Datlow's stuff, I will politically say that there's a lot of the times there's great writers that deserve to show up, obviously, but we know that there's just certain people who can rise to the top based on the power of their name and their name alone sometimes, and that's just the nature of the game. So we try to make a conscious effort to.
We feel like we get shot on the streets. Nobody's saying that the writers in those anthologies were not good. I mean, they're good. There's a reason that they are so well known.
Yeah.
It's just that it does take both things. And the thing is, if you don't have the people who are putting the unknown writers out there, what are you going to have 20 years from now, right? Like everybody has to start somewhere. You do need to have both things. And out of the two, like, I'm again probably shooting myself in the foot here saying this, but out of the two, it's definitely harder to publish unknown writers. It just is. Because on the one hand, publishing people takes less time. in terms of actual work hours, of seeking out people, of having open submissions, of getting nominations, of just reading endless stories in order to find the right ones, right? That takes a lot of work hours. I can totally understand why everybody, or why not everybody can do that, and why a lot of editors choose to go with safe people that they already know how they write, they already know how they work, totally fine, and they go with them. I get it, because it is much harder. And it is harder to sell them, because you're not going to have as easy a time getting a blurb from Joe Hill on an anthology of people that nobody's ever heard of. Like, that is not happening. And we kind of love and embrace that. We
Yeah.
love and embrace the chaos energy. But it is harder from many, many points of view to do these anthologies and to highlight our authors that nobody knows. And that's why I think it's so important that somebody does it. Somebody has to. We
And I
can't
think
just
it's
all stop.
I think it's played in our favor, quite frankly, to this point, because
Yeah,
you know
people like it.
we've begun developing an identity toward that. Not
Yeah.
like we're an anti-publisher. We're we've published pretty traditionally, but it's that Alex and I are both very vocal in our thoughts on without getting involved in the who's showing their ass on social media this week, because you can't really keep up with that game. That shit goes so fast that we
I
cycle
beg
through our
your
outreach on
pardon.
that,
I
but
keep up. I keep up. I just
oh,
keep up quietly.
yes, we
I
keep
keep
up
up without saying
internally,
anything.
but
This episode is being recorded on Friday the 10th, and it will come out the same day. By the time this comes out on the same day, there will be a new controversy that's going on right now on the
Oh
same
yeah.
day as we're recording
Oh
this.
our job is to not be at the center of it.
We try so
it might
hard.
be.
I fail sometimes, but we try so hard not to be the main character.
I often tell myself I'm just using social media to just push the stuff that we're publishing. I'm not gonna do anything about my life. I'm not gonna show opinions. It's a trap. It's always a trap. And then like a day later, I'm like, ah, can't do it. It's so difficult. I mean, some people can do it. I can't.
It's hard. The more you care, the harder it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I start talking about all the things that piss me off about what people are doing in the horror community on horror Twitter, I'm going to sound like the world's biggest misanthrope, like I hate everybody. And it's literally the opposite of that. It's because I freaking love people so much, and I believe in them, and I think that they can do better than what they're doing. And I just want to sometimes sit them down and go, Oi, do you realize that you're being an asshole? Stop it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. Like, the more you care about this stuff, the more you care about your place in it and how you can do better for everybody around you, the harder it is not to want to exhale, all of that onto the situation when it happens. And it takes a lot of restraint to just sit on your hands and go, no, this situation doesn't need me to chime in right this minute. Instead, what I'm going to do is 2 weeks from now, I'm going to do an actual action that's going to somehow improve the situation. So I'm not going to argue with this person right now. Instead, I'm going to start this charity initiative and donate to this cause the moment I can. It's really hard. And again, Matt is great. I'm the one who fails occasionally, and I just fling myself into trouble. I feel like he's pretty sure that eventually I'm just going to explode like a box of TNT, and he's just hoping it's not going to be on somebody's podcast or at StokerCon.
Oh shit! She just exploded, folks.
She says that, but she's had to go in and luckily we both have access to the corporate Twitter account, and she's checked me a few times. I'm gonna go in and delete that.
I've deleted some tweets. That's true. Actually, that makes me feel better now that I remember that. You're right.
It's good. We definitely check and balance each other, because it's really easy to get sucked into the outrage machine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I just have something I want to say, and this person is so wrong. But what's the point? There's so many better actions we could do, and so that's what we try to do.
It's almost like It's almost like a video game almost you get sucked into and you forget
Hmm.
about reality and then you don't think about it until someone like walks into your office slash bedroom and goes, "Hey, are you coming out to play this game with us?" And you're like, "Oh
Hmm.
shit, what time? What day is it? I'm busy talking I'm talking online."
Yeah.
And you,
Have you ever had to explain like in-depth publishing drama, like that kind of 3 days later people are still
yeah,
commenting drama to
yeah.
somebody in your life who is not involved in publishing?
Yeah. So kind of. My spouse and partner, Lily Michelle, is obviously involved in publishing, but she doesn't really do much social media. She's on Facebook, but that's
Mm-hmm.
about it. So I'm always having to explain like week-long twiddle drama that finally makes its way to Facebook. And she's like, "Do you know
Mm-hmm.
about this?" I'm like, "Do I
Oh
know
yeah.
about this? I've been in the trenches for like
Oh yeah.
months." And then I feel really silly trying to explain any of it because it's always so stupid.
Yes, it's so, even when it's not, it's so hard to explain how deep into this stuff we can get and deep into our own heads. And it's like, I've blocked 50 people, 220 have blocked me. Somebody quit publishing, an entire publishing house has completely shut down. And I'm not sure I can tell you how this started anymore. Please take me out to lunch so that I can wash my head of this
so
because,
so I can
wow.
see actual people.
Yes, there are real human beings out there.
Uh, um, okay, going back to this book. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never tried to put together a best of anthology. And I
Mhm.
imagine it is quite exhausting. So what was the process like? Did you do an open submission period, or will you know like, okay, what has been published? I'm gonna try to read everything I can and then contact the
Mhm.
authors, or maybe a combo of both.
I
Yeah,
will
we did
say,
kind of. Sorry,
I want
go
to
ahead,
say
Matt.
though, I did successfully check Alex a little bit on this one because originally we were just basically going to throw the doors wide to publishers and independent authors to submit with no limitations as many
Yeah.
pieces.
In
And I just said, I
hindsight,
want you to
thank you for stopping me.
think about what
Yeah.
that means. And we ended up
Yeah.
limiting it to, I believe, 5
Five
pieces
per
per.
author, five
Yeah,
per submitter, not per author, five per
right. And
submitter.
so any publisher could submit 5 pieces. Any individual author could submit 5 pieces. Any individual author
Yeah.
could solicit their publishers to submit on their behalf,
Yeah.
however they wanted to do it.
Any editor could submit, anybody who is self-published could submit their 5 pieces. So basically, any person who submitted anything for our consideration could do 5 pieces. And we did have like the open session for everybody to send us everything they thought was worth looking at. We also combined it with obviously us spending the year as much as possible getting to know the community, getting to know what was getting published, who was interesting. We went out and we tagged people and we said, "Hey, you who runs this magazine, I know for a fact that you have interesting stuff. Please take 10 minutes and send us a bunch of your favorites." And or hey, you author, send us a bunch of your favorites. We didn't invite anybody. We as a rule don't ever do specific invitations like with a guarantee of publication at Tenebris, but we just invite people to submit if we want to make sure that they see the opportunity. That's all it is. So yeah, we invited a bunch of people to submit. We showed the opportunity to as many people as we could. We did it on a very fast schedule because we wanted to have it, I didn't like the idea of doing the best of 2022 and releasing it like at the end of 2023, which I know is what mostly happens in publishing. Like I know that that would be the
Mhm.
sane and normal approach. I just didn't wanna. So we did it as quickly as we could. We decided we'd do the reading period
And it was
for
Halloween to
1 month.
Halloween, right? That we ended up
Yeah.
going.
And
Okay.
the what's it called? Oh, I'm missing the word. Eligibility period for stories would be Halloween to Halloween. So everything before Halloween qualifies. After Halloween, it's for next year, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we said everything from Halloween to Halloween, put it in this one. We read it over 1 month. We made our selections, and it's basically already being printed, which was pretty fast and fun.
That's
But
awesome.
we love a fast project. We've already done a really fast project with Your Body Is Not Your Body. And I
Mhm.
feel like sorry about that. I feel like we thrive pretty well in the context of having to do things at a zippy pace.
Yeah. That sounds good. With this table of contents, something I've had happen with me, of course, with like doing anthologies, is especially when you're publishing somebody you didn't know about until they submitted to you or you found this early, is you schedule this great new voice and then you end up like filming this relationship with them and that goes on to like, oh, you have a whole book, send it to me. Like, has that happened with you yet with this anthology? Like, have you filmed like these relationships? Will you think it might end up going into publishing books beyond just like a short story?
Sure, a few of the creators, and creators are different. Like obviously we've not published anyone based on their abilities to use social media, or some of them are much more reclusive,
Right.
but some authors are much more gregarious, and so yeah, there are certain ones that we have bonded with because we've had a chance to, whether it's in the Tenebris Discord or or on social media. But some of them I've never heard boo from, and some of them I've had extended conversations with, and either of those, if we're able to track them down, we would love to hear more from it. And I think you'll be seeing more Tenebris work from a few of the people in that table of contents.
Did you
It's
want
still,
to
this one is
go ahead.
this one is still relatively recent, so we are still ourselves really getting to know these people on a human level, not just the story, and getting involved with their stories and their careers as writers. But it's happened with us from other projects that we've done for sure. Somebody submitted something that we had to pass on, and the next thing we asked for more because we loved it so much. Sometimes you just have to pass on something because it's not the right genre, because it doesn't fit the right way. We ask for more. We tend to be very open to pitches. We are working on a system where we're going to be permanently open to anybody pitching anything to us at any time, because we do love that idea of just giving people access to say what they want to say. It's really hard also because I'm a writer as well, and it's really hard when some of my favorite publishers and these people that I want to work with and I dream to work with, and they are just never open, ever. You are not invited, you are not welcome. And if they're open, it's 1 week a year, and if you've missed it, we're not opening again for 11 years. So I kind of want to counteract that and just let everybody have their moment to pitch whatever they want. So we definitely do ask people to pitch more if we know that we're going to be interested in what they're doing, if we love their style, if we get along with them. That has happened. We've passed on novellas and asked them to pitch more novellas in some cases. We've passed on novellas and then changed our mind in some cases.
Yeah.
We do.
Speaking of our next book,
Speaking of our next book, we do whatever it takes to get the right story out. That's it. We don't put a lot of other rules on ourselves.
That's great.
The only rule, I guess, is that we have finite resources because we're two humans and there's no other humans attached to this whole enterprise.
Oh my gosh, are you telling me there's no trust fund? Is this how you're coming out to me, as not having a trust fund?
I didn't want to do this on a podcast, but maybe
after
we can.
I signed the contract, after I tattooed our logo on my ass, are you kidding me?
Anyway, no. So we're trying to. I think this year we're going to be running at about maximum capacity for what we can release, which is eight individual volumes, and we're going to see how we do with that. I mean, the reason I'm saying this is that we will be open to all pitches and whatnot, but basically the ground rule is that both of us end up having to love it, and both of us have to pour our energies into it, because we never want to release a book that just goes out there and is just taking up shelf space. Everything we believe, like, wholeheartedly want to annoy the shit out of everybody about this amazing book that we're putting out this month. And we don't ever want it to just be the cycle, and now it's time to put another thing out. It's time to put another thing out. We believe in everything we put out. and so that's
Oh,
gonna
it
continue.
it definitely means that, taking pitches constantly definitely means that the vast majority of the pitches are going to get that's wonderful, but it's not right for us. Like
Right.
it's what it has to mean. You have to trade it off like that. If you want to be open all the time, it means a lot of people are going to send work in, and we still can only take those like 8, 9, 10 books per year. That's all it can be for now. But I think it's worth it. We're gonna try it. If it doesn't work, we're going to change it again.
Have you been pitched anything by a podcast host during a podcast?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, yes. But
Yes.
not
Damn
to
it.
incriminate any podcast hosts that we are talking to at this very moment. We have
No,
not.
no,
Great.
no, not any
Oh.
that we are talking to at the current moment. No, but yes.
I just find it really funny to like have a different press on the podcast and then like in my head make it more and more uncomfortable. Like, I have a book out. It's like redirect every question to like the book I want to submit. So that's great. It sounds like a book I recently finished.
Enough about us, Max. I want to turn
Let's
this around.
talk about your book. No, but okay, you would still not be even close to actually reaching the top levels of uncomfortableness that can happen. Like I'd be surprised if this has never happened to you, but obviously not naming any names, not telling, not spilling any tea here.
Yeah.
But we have had let's say people in positions of power in publishing, such as podcasters in general, reviewers, or that kind of general category of people,
Yes.
not say out loud, but heavily imply that our opinion of their submitted material would influence our future collaborations together. So, like, if you want to make it awkward, we can teach you lessons on how to make it all the way awkward. And
Please,
really flesh that
why
out.
not? Please teach me any lessons you have.
I mean, you've been playing this game for quite a while, so I would
you know how
there's
it
not
works.
much that's going to shock you.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I have had that happen, and it's never fun.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, the right move here is, first of all, you ask us which of our authors you could have on your podcast, and then like immediately after we start talking, you say, "Oh, by the way, I'm submitting a book to you."
Yeah.
Just to make it really super clear where we stand.
So I recently got this book from you called Self Tilligance. I was hoping to get him on the podcast eventually when the book's coming out. But it does remind me of a book I wanted to send to you guys.
Perfect.
Speaking
Perfect. Killing it. That is it. That is the attitude. Oh, you're
Thank you.
perfect for this.
Before we wrap things up, did you want to walk through maybe the table of contents from this anthology and maybe say a little bit about each story?
Sure. Let me pull that table
Okay,
of
cool.
contents up. Speaking of words that I'm not sure how to pronounce, the first story, Banus. I was a big fan of that one, and it involves a lot to do with linguistics and a woman very much in a position of threat under a fairly mansplaining, toxic individual. And I don't know how to. That's the other thing. Like now, I hadn't really thought to prepare myself on some of these stories.
That's okay. You can just skip some if you want. I mean, no one's holding a gun to you. It's fine. It's just a podcast.
Yeah. A couple that really stand out to me, for one, is Blame by Warren Benedetto. That was that one. I didn't know Warren at all. I'm not sure, Alex, if you knew him at all before any of this. But
no.
Yeah, so he came to us fresh.
Apparently, I have learned since, because we've spoken to him since and we talk regularly. Apparently, this is one of the most prolific people in horror right now, that is sending out stories at the rate of 20 per day and getting acceptances left and right. Like, Warren is fantastic. He's the writer that everybody loves to hate because he is really hustling out there. It's fantastic.
I also do want to make sure, I don't want to take credit for, every one of these stories was released by someone else. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of publishers which are listed in the book. We also talk about other publishers just in the industry that are well worth our audience's attention, because other people were bold enough to publish these stories, and so we were lucky enough to get dibs on including them into what we do. But I can't off the top of my head remember who published Blame originally, but it is written in a very epistolary style, but in a modern setting, in an office setting, and it's just a pretty good creep fest about everything that is going on within the internal machinations of this office setting.
So I'm looking at the copyright page of the book, and it says Blame was published in an anthology called The Dread Machine.
Yes, so that's an online
Oh yeah, The Dread Machine
website, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. One that I would love to highlight, if I can, is that okay, Matt? If I take
Yes,
one next?
please have at it.
One that I would really love to highlight is Sergei's story. Sergei Gerasimov, The Day When the Last War is Over. And this is somebody we'd never heard of before. Strangely enough, we should have, because we did overlap some, like we have people in common, but we never heard of this author before. And then after we accepted this story, we discovered that he's actually a journalist on the front lines in Ukraine.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it was really interesting. There's a good interview with him published in, I'm not sure if it's available online, published in Apex. It might still be in Apex magazine. And we discovered that basically by, trying to pay him his fee by PayPal, and him writing back that we should pay it to his wife because she's somewhere safe at the moment and he isn't. And that really knocked the wind out of me. Like, that was not what you're expecting to hear on an average day in publishing, And his story is absolutely beautiful. The way that he writes is absolutely beautiful. He does primarily write as a journalist, not as much in fiction. So it was nice to be able to highlight this story of his in Brave New Weird. We were very happy we got the chance to do that.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I haven't read that one, but I'm looking forward to reading it, especially now with that context in mind. It's pretty incredible. And yeah, most of the time, like when you go to pay a rental, they usually don't say something like that.
It was, yeah, it really highlights how disconnected we are. And it's even weirder for me because I'm right here. Like, I could drive there in 1 hour. I'm 2 footsteps away from the front line. And even I'm so disconnected from that reality, and even I'm so safe, and it's so different here. So it really reminds us that we get caught up in our own stuff, and we forget that some people are dealing with stuff we cannot even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds us that we do have to give people as much space and courtesy and patience and kindness as we can, because you have no idea what people are carrying. And in this case, it's genuinely like a lot. It's a reality I can't even fathom. I sincerely hope I'm going to, read his book a couple of years from now, because that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Is that what he's doing? Is he writing a book about what's going on?
He writes for a newspaper. I think there are certain articles that you can get English translations of, but it's is it a Swiss newspaper? But it's
German,
published it's a German newspaper published in. Is it published in German? I can't even remember. There's a couple different language translations that it jumps through, like if you're looking it up online. But
there is some select stuff that is translated in English, and looking up his name will bring up what's available. Yeah, so you can get a sense of what he's doing.
Nice. Before we end things, for those interested in submitting to volume 2 of this anthology, when are you already open, or are you going to be opening? What details do they need to know?
We're not open right at this minute. The last time for this one, we were only open for like a month and a half, I think. We are planning on doing it for a longer period of time this year. So we are going to open as soon as we can, but it's still going to be at some point in the early summer, and then just keep it open throughout the rest of the months until, the end of October, which is the cutoff period. Everything after that is going to go into the next one. And long before that, like hopefully in a couple of weeks, we're going to open up our form for pitches that we're going to try to keep permanently open. And that's going to be for novellas or just book length projects. The weirder, the better. If you can barely call it a novella, we're probably interested in seeing it.
Yeah.
Excellent. How can folks find you online?
We are at tenebruspress.com. We're on all the usual, not all the usual, primarily Twitter and Instagram at Tenebrous Press. Alex is at her own name at Alex Woodroe. I'm at my own name at Matt Blairstone, but I'm far more boring than either of those other ones. But yeah, we have a Tenebrous Discord, which you can find through our, if you go to us on Twitter, it'll take you to all the other links and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But we have our Discord and our newsletter and all of that shit that you're supposed to have. And honestly, those are my preferred ways to talk to our audience, versus social media. With the newsletter, you got kind of a captive audience where we can rant at them.
Yeah.
Same with the Discord. You've got the Ghoulish Discord is huge, and so you've been able to foster that thing into a nice little community there.
It's way too big. I hate it. It's too much. Every day I go, I'm gonna nuke this thing. It's grown too big. Yeah, I can't stay in control of it.
I love Discord groups because everybody just chats and they basically can maintain themselves. I love the newsletter because I forget that there are actual people reading it, so I kind of mouth off and say whatever I like in the newsletter. And then only after it's published, people go like, "Oh, I saw what you said in the newsletter," and I'm like, "I'm sorry."
I've had that happen. It was like, "Oh, wait, you read it?" Oh,
yeah.
Whoops! I was just sending that out into the void.
I was not prepared for that.
Can I also just take 1 minute to plug our next book, which is coming out in March? You had the arc in your hand there. That's the only reason I'm diving into it. It is Soft Targets by Carson Winter. That'll be the first of 7 novellas that we're putting out this year. And it deals with some heavier subject matter. We fall firmly in the camp of content warnings are an okay thing, especially there's easy ways to do it without spoiling the subject matter. And this is the first one. Yeah, this is the first one where we've put the content warnings up front and center because it deals with gun violence in the United States, which is a subject that I personally am, and I hate to use the word triggered when describing that, but that's the easiest word to use. And we actually got that submission about a year ago, and we rejected it based on my discomfort with dealing with it. And Alex, and we loved the author, we loved the book, and we signed a different book by the author, but it wouldn't leave my mind, and Alex wouldn't get off my back about it. And basically,
I'm not sorry.
Eventually I came around to the idea that, hey, we did better this year than I was anticipating. So maybe I got a little cocky and I was like, okay, fuck it. Is it still available? Let's put it out. And so I'm really eager to see how it does out there in the world. It's a very intense, very quick, and
it's a very good,
very hard read at times, but it's electric. It's like the prose is just fantastic. Carson, we have 3 books signed with him over the next year and a half because we really believe he's one of the strongest young voices of what we are trying to build, of new weird. And he anyway, March 22nd is when Soft Targets comes out.
If anyone wants to know what this book sounds like, it sounds like this. That's what the book sounds like.
Captured it perfectly.
And that was Matt Blairstone and Alex Woodroe talking about stuff. Go buy the books at Tenebrous Press, you fools! And then go to ghoulishbooks.com and buy some ghoulish books. That's it. That's all I have to say. Review the podcast if that's the thing you can do. It hasn't gotten a new review in months, yields, decades. I don't know. It can use some. That would be pretty cool. Thank you.
Live spooky, die spooky.
Rest in peace, Max.